Hello, hello, hello there, Outliers. Niiamah is Sean here, and thank you so much for letting me be a part of your journey. I say me, but I really do mean us because we're here on an Outliers Edge Roundtable with four extraordinary outliers who are going to be sharing their pathways to doing and creating success in a way that is unique to them, while also leveraging the things that all of us have available to us. I cannot wait for you to get in and get to know these outliers here. Let's go ahead and get started. Why don't we start off with Coach Joe? Joe, do you mind letting us know more about you and the game that you're playing right now?
Sure. So a little bit about me. My name is Joe Callari, but a lot of people know me as Coach Joe. I'm a men's health and fitness coach, and what I focus on is just helping men become better leaders. And I feel like in today's society, we need that, right? We need to make sure that we're raising our children. We also need to make sure that we're being there to support everybody, including, our spouses in that household by just being a better example and making sure that we're doing the right things to fill up our cups, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually as well. So that way we can just be more of assets to pour more onto others.
Well, thank you for doing the work you do, Joe. Let's go to Letitia.
Thanks for having me. I'm Letitia Hopkins. I'm a life, love, and relationship coach. And I really love helping people connect back to their self love because everything always starts with self. And we are so much better for all of the people that we love on, all of the people that we serve, when we are first filling up our own cup, just like Coach Joe said, and then pouring from our overflow. Whenever we are feeling happy, healthy, and whole, that is when we are able to give the best of ourselves and to all of the people that we love and want to support. So that is what the Encourage Over Everything show is all about. I love my podcast and talking about a little bit of everything because regardless of whatever mission it is that we are on to serve, we are all still doing our best to be the best human that we can be. And encouragement is often the way that helps us through all of the ups and downs of life.
Well, thank you, Letitia. Thanks for being here. We'll go to Gina and then Nathallie.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very grateful to be here today. I'm Gina Kunadian. I'm a women's alcohol-free sobriety coach. I help them navigate the path of sustained sobriety without AA. I focus on mind, body, and spirit. I believe all three of those things you have, you will definitely shine, which then comes to my podcast. I am the host of the Shine Within podcast, where I bring actually women to share their stories of how they turn their pain into purpose. And I bring on also experts who talk about women's health, spirituality, as well as mindset tools. So again, I'm so grateful to be here, and I'm just looking forward to everyone's conversation today.
Same here. Glad to have you here, Gina. And Nathallie?
Hello, everyone. My name is Nathallie Hughes. I am a life mindset and manifestation coach. In my business and on my podcast, on my platform, I support professional women as they co-create emotionally fulfilled and purpose-driven lives for themselves. My dream and my mission is to help women get everything that they've come here for, in terms of life and fulfillment on a soul level. I believe that women are called to be leaders, and my work helps them to lead in their lives, lead in their families and their industries and their communities and the world as a whole without being held back by their past.
Well, I appreciate each of you for being here. Like clearly outliers, we have a powerful group of people who are like creating their worlds around them, and each of you are creating more for others. That's why I invited you here because you choose to lead. And I would like to start off this conversation rooted in leadership. Think about it for yourselves here. What's one like I would like to see like the part of you that you might identify as an outlier or the way that you do things differently. What's one way that you bring out like your outlier advantage, your gifts, your strengths into your leadership, whether it's leading within your team or leading within the message that you have here. For today, for this first question, I'm gonna like just call upon you, and then afterwards we'll just kind of let the energy take us where it needs to be, right? So Gina, why don't we start with you, and then we'll go to you, Joe.
Yes, what sets me apart from all the rest? Well, I think each of us has a certain quality, a certain gift that we can all bring to the table. But for me, I tried AA, didn't work for me. And so I wanted to see what is out there that necessarily doesn't have to have AA for women or anybody that I'm working with, to go ahead and just learn who they are as a spiritual being. So what I do is I focus on sobriety, of course, and then mindset, physical fitness here, and then also spirituality. But my SHINE process is actually, it's an acronym. It's sobriety, healing, inspiration, nurturing, as well as empowerment. So I focus on all of that together. And believe me, I am so grateful to be working with the women that I work with, because I see them transforming each and every day.
Thank you for that. All right, cool. Joe, how about you?
Remember Dr. Seuss? He has an amazing quote that says, "Why try to fit in when you were born to stand out?" So I think that's like what I try to embrace within inside of our coaching program at Heartletics with our members. And that's just to be unique, be authentic, be who you are. Don't try to fit in, or just don't try to stick to the same routine as everybody else, especially when you're born to really stand out. So it's really about we kind of talked about, being leaders, right? And shining, right? I like to consider myself and our team as kind of like building up lighthouses, if that made sense, right? A lighthouse, it doesn't have a sound, right? It doesn't have a horn, but it shows the way, and it's all about, helping our members, once again, become their own lighthouses for internally, for their own house, their own churches, their own communities, to just be a better, leader and light for others.
Well, I appreciate that. I hadn't thought about the lighthouse metaphor in that way for a bit there, and what's coming for me is how you've integrated that in many different ways. Like it's not just like on the podcast or like with your team, but I got the sense that it also goes to different members and the people that you're working with on their fitness and things like that. Would you want to speak to any part about like how you allow them to bring out them in the work that gets done?
Yeah, so in our space, right, the fitness industry, you can either have something that's 100% personalized or something that is customized, right? And that's typically like cookie cutter type deal. So with us, we do a full assessment with somebody, meaning that if somebody ever gets an onboarding, assessment with us, going through start to finish, we want to actually show them how we can help them make small little tweaks. So for example, if let's say you were interested in losing some weight, or creating better habits for yourself, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We just want to figure out like what are those small little tweaks to make. So essentially it's like for some of these guys, they work their 9 to 5s. They're spending time with their family, at home. So it might be, hey, encouraging them instead of, you know, cutting out all the carbohydrates or avoiding all the sugar, right? Because that's not going to be sustainable for everybody in the household. It's why don't we make those small little tweaks? Like, why don't we go for a walk before we sit down and eat? Why don't we switch to diet pop rather than, full pop full of sugar? The small little tweaks like protein bars rather than candy bars. Like I have a 5-year-old son, he loves his protein bars rather than candy bars, right? So it's those small little nuances where everybody's different. Everybody has their own occupations, everybody has a different family, everybody has, different worlds to experience. So we try to meet them where they're at first and foremost. So instead of reinventing the wheel, it's, hey, what can we do to just kind of avoid some of the bad habits that's holding us back? And how do we habit stack better habits that's just going to be more sustainable for us and a better, longer, healthier, happier future?
Well, thank you for that, Joe. That like starts to put things into perspective for me. Letitia, I want to get your thoughts on it. What are your thoughts on anything we've said so far?
I absolutely love focusing in on taking those small habits and just making those small tweaks. I think sometimes where we often get discouraged is we will set a goal and try to just go the whole mile. And, we haven't really conditioned ourselves yet to run the mile. So I love taking those small steps and really just starting with where you are. And as soon as we recognize where we are and those small little steps that we can take now to actually generate some wins, and we can start building on that momentum, it's really those small shifts that in the long run make a huge impact.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that, there, Letitia. Now, I'm curious for you, like, how else are you bringing out your outlier and your leadership, and like, want to hear about like the way that you do it, and that'll be really great to know.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing that I would love to say is that I'm a leader because I don't have a choice but to lead. I think that the call to leadership oftentimes comes from being failed by the systems that have already been put into place. So for me, really quick example, when I was in high school, I was getting a lot of F's and I was getting a lot of D's. And, I was the kid that was told that I probably wasn't going to go to college. And when I ended up going to college and ended up getting accepted into every college that I applied to, I went to college. And in my first semester of my freshman year, I finished in the top 15% of the freshman class. So college was so expansive and freeing for me because college had less rules and less structure than high school had. It was, read this book and take notes on this and then come to class and we'll discuss. There was nobody checking a reading log to see if I had done it. So that call to leadership really comes because I don't really like listening to rules. I don't really like following orders. That doesn't work for me. So I grew up always being told that I need to behave in a certain way. I need to follow these rules and I need to talk like this and I need to show up like this in order to be accepted, in order to be good enough. And when I didn't measure up, I was told that I was a failure. So my journey has really been a journey of learning how to trust myself and trust what lights me up, even when everybody else is telling me I need to be moving in the opposite direction. Over these past, 5.5 years that I have been in business, I have been told again and again and again that I'm doing everything wrong and that what I actually need to be doing is something that feels like it's draining the life force out of me. And I have been able to create the most success when I'm actually listening to myself and listening to my own internal compass. So the work that I do with women isn't about teaching them how to follow a specific set of rules. It's more so about giving them the tools that I have used to, process and heal from those past experiences so that they can tap into their own internal compass and, follow that all the way home.
Yeah, I appreciate this here. There's Natalie, something you're saying that makes me think back to something that Joe said earlier, which was Joe had mentioned like small tweaks, and I had heard that through the lens of like going into what system already works for you and making the adjustments with that system versus saying, everything that you're doing is just wrong. So just take this thing because my life is great and you should go and take it. Like I kind of get that sense there. And I feel part of the reason why I built Outliers Edge and like even here in this conversation, I'm not like asking you like teach us the 4 things that like I'm like just share your experiences because what we're looking to do is to try and say like how do we take the system that is you and then find whatever areas need a shift so we can go in there without breaking the whole thing overall. Let me open this up here. I had another question, but since I brought this into the space here more directly, I want to just open it up for everyone. Any thoughts, anything that you want to expand upon? Gina, is anything coming to you in this in particular?
Well, I just love what Natalie said about breaking rules. I mean, that the system sucks. All systems sucks. And I feel like it's going to collapse. When we are in our authentic selves, things just change, shifts happen, and then we're moving. The movers and shakers, like we're going. And so I'm just so excited. We're in this world right now. I mean, we chose to be here right now. And so it's exciting, but I hated rules growing up. High school, I sucked. College, I even sucked. And it wasn't until 2020 hit that then I found my passion. I come from the massage business. I've been doing massage therapy for over 17 years. I work at the Silicon Valley Four Seasons Hotel for that long too. But I was tired of that hustle, grind. Like I would literally wake up. Okay, alarm clock, snooze first, actually, to be honest, snooze, and then get up, be in traffic, and then go to work, punch in, clock out for lunch, clock out for work, come home in traffic again. 101's brutal. And just coming back to the same routine. There's no expansion there. So with me having to have that pause in 2020, yes, I did lose loved ones. Unfortunately, it was a lot of hardship for many people. And so I do want to say upon that, like I respect everyone who had lost somebody because I lost 2 uncles, but it allowed me to spend more time with my family. It allowed me to slow down and to connect to my inner guidance, whether you want to call it Holy Spirit, inner guidance, higher consciousness, whatever your God of your understanding. I connected to that. And that's what led me to where I am today. I had to do a lot of gratitude practices, a lot of prayer, a lot of meditation. And that's what kept me going and going. Like, you know what? Now I know my passion. Now I know what I want to do. These are the things that I've done. And now I'm ready to go. So, yeah.
I love that component of like doing the work and then it coming to you like, hey, now I do get it. Now I know where I want to ride with this here. Y'all are fantastic. I'm having a good time here. I'm gonna ask some other questions. This one though, I just have for Joe real quick here because your business is called Heartletics, correct?
Yeah.
Why the heart?
Oh, great question. Two stories behind it. So the first one was one of my in-person clients that I was training many, many moons ago. He was having a hard time during our training session. And I remember having a sit-down conversation with him and just saying, like, listen, you used to be an athlete back in the day, right? I think he played basketball or baseball or something like that in like high school and college. And he got out of shape. Fast forward, obviously having kids, working 9 to 5, life happens, right? So I remember having a sit down conversation with him and just saying, like, listen, you were an athlete, but it doesn't mean that you're not an athlete anymore. It's still there. It's inside your heart. It's just we got to pull it out. Right. And so like that is the ambition that I tell everybody is like you can see the greats out there like Michael Jordan, LeBron James, whoever your favorite athlete is, but we can all still be that athlete, right? An athlete is somebody that is a role model. It's somebody that is a leader. It's somebody that inspires. So I try to encourage our members to just do exactly the same. And then the second reason why it's called Heartletics is because I would say maybe about 10 years ago, maybe 11 years ago, I almost committed suicide. So I was going through a very, very dark, depressing time in my life. And that's when I realized here, like almost committing suicide, about to die, that I didn't love myself, and like even though physically like I'm a strong dude, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I was very weak, and so I had to kind of go within, honestly, through meditation, yoga, a lot of self-help, everything like this, to really find out who I was. And who I was, somebody that didn't need to accept love, based on just outside world circumstances. It was more so to love who I am. And that's it. That's where true confidence truly comes from. And so that's the combination of Heartletics. It's that athlete, but it's also that, hey, everything that we do, it should always come from a place of love, joy, peace, right? The fruits of the spirit that's in the Bible and embracing that to others. It's just the golden rule, right? Treat others how you want to be treated. But in doing so, we should also make sure we're treating ourselves with love and respect first.
All right. Well, I'm glad I asked this here because there was, I feel the depth that's in it. I'm glad that you brought this out to life. I'm glad that what I'm hearing is like you found there's like an outer version of strength and then there's an inner version as well. And you brought the two of them together. I want to go into this space of mindset. Sometimes I stay away from it in our conversations because I'm like, I don't know what it is actually. I think it's because I spent a lot of time with coaches. So I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to definitely go down mindset. Let's go somewhere else. But now that you brought it in, I'm like, I think it's the right place to go. All right.
It's the
So
only place to go, man. Mindset's
it.
everything.
I hear y'all. I hear y'all. So like let's dive in here with it. We'll play it in a couple different ways, but I think Gina, you brought in something earlier around self-trust. I wanna like tap into that here in this next part of the conversation. I love for each of you to think about some a project and a conversation, just something in the work that you do that really like challenge your self-trust. It's different than the confidence. It's different than like being encouraged. It's like in particular, self-trust in particular. And I'd love for you to just like share with us a quick story around it here. Does anyone have a story around self-trust and the way that it impacted their business or the way that they showed up here that they'd like to share?
I'll go first if nobody
Yeah,
else
please,
wants to. So I think where self-trust comes from is discipline, honestly. I know you said, hey, let's not coordinate, confidence with this, right? Keep it completely separate, right? So I think if we had to put, trust in yourself, it's really about being disciplined, and in my opinion, right, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you say you're going to do it, you should probably do it. And I think that's where you build up that trust, and I think that's what helps you, especially in the entrepreneurship route where most people, when they get started, it's scary. You have this funnel, this system, this automation, right? This coaching venture. There's so many different things being hit up all at once. It's very easy for somebody to get that overanalysis paralysis and kind of just jump ship, And I think like when you just kind of close off all the blinders, put your head down and just start working on that craft, working on that business, working on that industry, whatever it is that's, your model that you want to, build upon and grow and watch it thrive and survive and, help out others. It starts with you being disciplined. It starts with you cutting off the noise, cutting off the blinders, and just not just talking the talk, but most importantly, walking the walk.
I love this. I kind of want to go to Nathallie right here because Nathallie, you talked about like there's something in you that seems to have like either a rebellious nature or something else there. So I'd be curious about the juxtaposition of that and the discipline that Joe just talked in, just to keep the space open. What are your thoughts? It might be exactly the same.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, in terms of discipline, it's really interesting because I realized for myself that discipline looks different on me than it kind of looks in other people.
Hmm.
There have been times, because, being an entrepreneur, it takes persistence and you got to keep showing up, even when it seems like there's nobody listening or there's nobody responding. You really have to um, keep trying. And there have been times when I'm freaking out based on a deadline. I've got to have this out on my website. I've got to send this email out. I have to, get this done before the cart closes and all of this stuff. So it's like moments where I'm experiencing this stress and then I pause and I'm like, you're not going to get graded on this. There's nobody who is telling you that you have to do this, you have to accomplish this, you have to finish this. Like, this is all you. This is all self-driven. There's nobody who told you that you had to start this business. In fact, there's many people who told you that you should stop and get a real job. Like, so that energy for me of being disciplined, it really comes from something that's internal. And I love earlier something that Joe mentioned about being heart-centered and having that connection with your heart. What I say to my clients all the time and in my podcast is it's in me, not on me. There's something inside of me that is calling me to my next level, something inside of me that is calling me, to my business success. And so as long as I have that calling inside of me, that thing inside of me, when you get so excited about a project or something new that you're launching and you really can't go to sleep, or you go to sleep and you're asleep for a couple of hours and then you wake up right in the morning and it's like, I don't even have time to have breakfast. I have to get this out of me. It's pouring out of me. So for me, discipline and self-trust looks like listening to myself and following my heart. And what I found is that I don't have to be a woman who forces herself to follow a specific structure in order to determine whether or not I'm good enough. My heart, it really will lead me all of the way through. So I'm never lacking in something new to do, even though the actions that I'm taking from my day to day, they might look a little bit different.
So I love spending time with outliers because y'all just like everyone has their own way of being able to create the success out here and the steadfastness with this. I want to continue on the components of self-trust. Letitia will come to you, and then Gina, you started us off on with self-trust. I'd like to come to you to wrap up this part of the conversation. But Letitia, can you share with us anything that you have on self-trust and just I guess my hope is that you can make it real for us along the way. Like how have you had to deal with this as you're building your business, as you're bring out your leadership?
I actually discovered my self trust when I was on my journey to find myself. I grew up with a single mom. She had me on her 15th birthday. So I always said I was the gift that keeps on giving. And she was my everything. She was my person. And several years ago, she passed away unexpectedly. And without her, I just felt so lost. I felt like my identity completely shifted, and I just didn't know who I was. And through the grace of God and a beautiful grief counselor who really patched me up because I probably wouldn't be standing without the two of them. But with that support and just a love from family and friends, it upheld me as I went on this journey to just discover who I am. And that's really where that self-trust was built, because I fell in love with myself. And I realized that it wasn't that I didn't know myself, I just needed to learn this new version of me, because there was a previous version of me that was just no longer present. And I had to love and appreciate her, as well as welcoming in this new woman that I had become. And it is really because of my mom that I started my business and decided to pursue my dreams. And I feel like her force of life was just as strong and impactful when she was living as when she transitioned. So, self trust was a journey that I went on that took me from the lowest of the low and brought me to my very best self. So, I'll always be grateful for that.
Thank you for that here. Like I'm feeling this feeling like it's not that I didn't know myself. I just didn't know this new version of me, right? Something to that said. Like when you said that, I actually just felt a lot of freedom. You know, I feel like I'll often say like when I'm talking to people, I'm like, if you're one of my clients, I'm not here to teach you anything. I'm just here to help you remember something, you know? And there's something that seems like it's really pulled out of you. Gina, we're going to come to you. I just want to see, does anyone have anything that they want to say based on what Letitia just brought in? Okay, let's go to you, Gina. I want to bring in like your relationship with self-trust, how it's helped you with the business and beyond.
Well, you notice that we always trust our inner guidance. We never say, oh, I shouldn't have done that. We always say, oh, I should have done that. We should have listened to ourselves. We don't say, I should have not listened to myself, right? So that inner guidance is so important there. And like I said, for me, with my God, I have a spiritual team up there. I'm just going to tell you that. I have a spiritual team. I'm a solopreneur. And when I get a lot of people saying, hey, Gina and team, blah, 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 in my emails, I'm like, yes, even though I don't have a physical team because it's just me, but I have a spiritual team and they're behind me. They're helping me out, whether it's ancestors, God, angels, whatever. But I have a spiritual team. And so that's what brings me so much joy in my life, is doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Like I had pain. Of course, everyone has pain. I had sexual trauma from the ages of 6 to 12 years old. I was sexually molested. And I kept everything inside me. I kept everything, masked all that pain with alcohol and drugs. And it wasn't until, I had an intervention with my family that they said, well, why are you like this? I said, I'm like this because this is what happened to me. But you know what? I really had to go within and forgive myself, forgive everything that would have happened. And I actually have my little picture here of myself that I don't know if you can see it. That's me
Yeah.
as a little girl. So that's my inner child there. I give her love and compassion every day. I think compassion and love and forgiveness, we need to give ourselves that all the time.
Outliers, if any of you right now are actually don't even just like trying to, let's just take a pause here and give ourselves that compassion. Like take some time right now and just love on your inner child. Love on who you are, remember who you are, and just like give space and appreciation to that and to you, to who brought you to this space here. Y'all are incredible people, and I'm enjoying like being in space with you. I'm going to take this conversation here to now on in the elements of influence and thought leadership. So we have a lot of people who are outliers that are currently looking to do one of two things, either to level up and step into the game of like expressing themselves, whether it's on a podcast or on like social media or like lead in their next program or whatever it is, right? Um, and I want to just like ask you all as you how to navigate stepping into your thought leadership. And I think it's different than just making content. It's like being able to say something that no one else is saying, right? How do y'all choose to lead and from the thought leadership perspective, and what's in something that has been just really helpful for you as you've navigated that path? Anyone have anything come to heart for them? Yeah, Nathallie.
Yeah. First thing that I want to say, thank you to everyone for sharing your stories. They're all so beautiful and inspiring. And when it comes to expressing myself and being able to say what I want to say and just show up, my biggest thing is that, first of all, I really like myself. Like, I really like myself. I spend a lot of time with myself. And I think we can all probably agree with that energy as entrepreneurs, as people who are doing our own thing. It's you coming up with the ideas. If you don't have that physical team yet, you're coming up with the marketing, you're coming up with what's going on the landing page and all of this stuff. So I spent a lot of time by myself, not just building my business, but healing. There was, traumatic experiences that happened for me when I was in college, and I ended up leaving college to establish this business. And when I first left college, I was freaking the heck out because in college, I was really successful. And that was really the first time that I had been able to create consistent success for myself. So, coming from high school where I felt like a failure and I was told that I was a failure, going to college where I was succeeding for the first time, and then I started building my first YouTube channel. I'm getting thousands of subscribers and successes coming in, and I'm making more money. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm not going to use the English degree. I'm not pre-med anymore. So goodbye, college. So I, left and I started this business, and I was freaking out. That question of, am I good enough? Can I do this? I'm a woman who loves definition. So my definition for self-esteem is what I believe that I can achieve and create. And I had such low self-esteem. I thought, was the success that I created in college, was it a fluke? And so all of that was stuff that I had to heal. I was terrified. I left college and started this business right before my 20th birthday. So I had never filed taxes before. Now, not only do I have to file taxes, but I have to file business taxes. And I remember the first time that I went to an accountant to see about filing business taxes. And because of how I set up my business, he was like, it's going to be $1,000. And at the time, I was 20 years old. And yes, I was making a couple thousand a month in my business, but having $1,000 in the bank account all at once, I didn't know what that was. And so I was freaking out. I was terrified about going to jail for tax evasion since I started my business because I was like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to afford this. I don't know how I'm going to be able to do this. And so a lot of that time of me building myself up and healing, that was all me spending time with me. And one of the things that I love so much about what Gina talked about was having that spiritual team. My spiritual team and my ancestors and my guides, they were the only support that I had, because everything outside of me, I didn't come from a family of people who pursued their dreams with everything that they had. I didn't see that and have that example growing up. And so there were times when I'm, in my bathroom crying, like, I need to give this up. I need to walk away from this. It's not working. I can't do it. And it's actually like the spirit of my ancestors coming through, and they're just like, hey, who are you? And, what does that stand for? And at the time, in those early years of business, I would just say, I am Nathallie Hughes. And that means something. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't have my mission statement. I didn't, have all of that understanding, but I knew that it meant something. And I knew that, my people, my spirits are fighting for me for some reason. And all of these years later, I'm able to see that vision more, and I'm able to step into that leadership role more. But my relationship with my ancestors and those conversations that I had, whether it was in the bathroom or I was, in my car parked on the side of the road, or I was traveling throughout the southern United States, scared that I wasn't going to be able to make enough money for my next meal or my next hotel. And it's just me and the ancestors and God. And I am sitting in the car and I'm bawling my eyes out, and they're telling me that things are going to be okay. It's like in those moments, I was coming home to myself, learning to trust myself, and also learning to like myself. Because when I was traveling throughout the South, it was the pandemic. And so everything was kind of shut down and everything was very isolated. So it was really just me, myself, and I. And I'm really entertaining. So I was healing myself and finding myself and falling in love with myself. So I really like myself. I'm going to laugh at the joke, even if nobody else laughs at the joke. And as long as I think it's funny, and as long as my ancestors think it's funny, then honestly, it's good. So that's how I am able to express myself authentically and share myself with the world, because I like me and everything else is extra.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we here, we like extra, so like we're good with all of it. Thank you, Nathallie. Thank you for getting us started on that one here. How else? How are other people bringing in like their outlier through their thought leadership and really bringing out that like the uniqueness of their mission, their message out in the world?
I think it's by first questioning yourself, right? So what I like to do, and I've been doing this for probably the last 6 months, maybe 8 months now, is ask myself a question before I create any form of content, whether it's a workout video, something about nutrition, mindset, anything like this. And the simple question is, what defines somebody having a legacy? Is it what they actually do here on earth, or is it how are they being remembered after they pass away? And I always ask myself that question. And then when I'm getting ready to make that content or make that post, it's that reminder of like, well, what if this is the last post I'm ever going to make? How do I want to be remembered? How can I change somebody's life if, right, like the circumstances are somebody might be like me 10 years ago think about committing suicide, right? Depressed out of their mind. What can I say to change this person's soul in the midst of them just reading my Instagram post or Facebook post? So I think to answer your question, it starts by asking ourselves, hey, are we doing this just for the repetition? Or are we doing this from a heart place, as we kind of been talking about for today's topic, and doing this to really make a difference, And I think that's what separates the contender from a champion?
Well, there's something in what you said here that struck me hard. And it was just like you're like whether I'm making an Instagram post or making a post somewhere, like how can I make this in such a way that it reaches someone's soul? Paraphrasing, but that's what I took out of it. And I think that there's something really profound in that. I had an experience where we were putting together chairs at a live event, and we had to go put down pamphlets, and the person behind it was like, here goes the thing. Everything you do must be imbued with love. That's what we do here. It's like people can tell when a pamphlet on a chair has been placed with love as opposed to just put down. And I saw it. I saw like the first half where just like everything was haphazardly strewn about versus when I came, I was like intentionally being like, you're going to have a great day. And I feel that like you don't even like you like what got me. I'm getting goosebumps as I'm thinking about it with what you do. Is like I'm not even. This is not just a throwaway post. This is not just something that's just going out here. Like this has the impact. This has the potential to impact someone's soul. So let me imbue that with that in this space here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. No problem. I think we often forget that like we're all business owners, right? So we're all looking for ways to scale and make an impact and make a name for ourselves. But we often forget that like every single time we're on social media, every single time we're creating any form of content, it's little seeds, right? That's all we're doing. We're planting those seeds. But who's to say next week, next month, next year, right? It's going to blossom. So it's like that's why it's got to make sure those, throwaway posts or anything like that, like, no, put an extra 5, 10 minutes into it. Think about it, turn off all distractions and make it worthwhile because you never know who might be seeing it for the very first time. And they might not be a purchaser or a buyer of your product or your service yet, but who's to say in the next 6 months to 12 months, they might be your number one customer.
Love that. Well, I want to keep this over here. So again, in the spirit of thought leadership, and this should probably be our last like big question here. So I want to get something from Letitia and Gina, and then we'll wrap up all together. Any thoughts around like how you show up and bring your outlier into your thought leadership? Letitia, let's start with you.
I think one thing that has really saved me is just being willing to remain a humble student. Anytime I start to do something and I am judging myself or feeling like I need to be the expert on something, then that's usually when I'm not really giving my best because I'm usually too much in my head and not in my heart. So I just remind myself that I'm just a student and I'm just learning. I'm just testing. I'm just seeing if this thing is what it's going to do and allow it to have a life of its own and not just rely on myself. And also, whenever I am trying to do something on my own, it's going to be harder. But when I remember that God is with me, my system is with me, everyone is with me, the angels have already laid their hands on me. Whenever I remember that I'm not doing this by myself, this speech that I'm giving is not me, it is what they want to convey through me. And anytime I start there, it's already golden. So I just remind myself that it really isn't me. I'm just a vessel being used. And this is just another message that needs to be out there. And coming from that place, it's just heart connecting to heart. And that's really what saves me every time.
Mm,
So if
mm,
it's
mm,
getting hard, it's because I'm thinking too much about me. It's just not about me.
mm. I'm taking that one in. You might have even heard that. I'm not even muted, so y'all could hear that was like, I'm like, oh, that one hits. That one hits. All right, Gina, bring us home here. What to bring us for Outliers and your thought leadership.
I just love everybody's energy, and I feel literally the love in this conversation here. For me, a lot of self-doubt comes in sometimes, and I just know I'm just a human being here, just trying to figure things out. I think we all are. So whenever I have any self-doubt, I tend to go out in nature, really, and I just then connect to my God there, and I feel the love, and I get messages, because I ask questions. What should I do next? Please lead me. Because I often say, be led by the spirit, not the ego. Because sometimes, that I know the ego's there to protect us or whatnot, but I really prefer to be led by the spirit. I feel like I get more clarity, answers that I had questions to answer to, and then I just experience the love. I don't know about you all, but I always experience love. I'm more of an empath. So I tend to feel more.
Well, I appreciate it. And I'm feeling all of you. I'm grateful for each of you. We're going to make sure that Outliers here have an opportunity to continue down the journey with you and Outliers. But I'll put out here, it's like, if there's anything, even one thing in this conversation that you feel would resonate and touch the heart of someone else, touch the mind of someone who is struggling to be them or is looking for that extra push to be themselves and to bring it out into their work. This conversation has just been full of this like valuable like outsights, I'll say. So if you can, find one person in your life and share this episode with them. And it only needs to be one. But like when you do it, I want to take a page from Joe's book here and just say, like, send it to them with like the thought that you might be able to impact their soul, right? Just with that invitation, and we'll keep playing from there. What we're gonna do here, we just have a few minutes left before the top of the hour. So what I want to do is have each of you share how people can continue down the journey with you. And the way that we do this is that we share an insight that you got from this conversation, some kind of takeaway. And the takeaway could be, I got no takeaways, right? But we share an insight you got from this conversation, and then how Outliers can continue to continue down the journey with you. And then we'll wrap up from there. So why don't we start with Letitia, then we go to Nathallie.
I had so many takeaways. I think that my favorite is just recognizing the common thread that we all have and share between us, and that is the connection with our hearts. Whether our stories have some similarities or differences, that never really matters. It's really just the connecting back to our hearts, and that we all have a beautiful path that is meant to shine a light for someone else's path. And the way that everyone is showing up in their own unique way is the best way to light the path for those coming behind you. So that's been my biggest takeaway. And oh, I'm sorry, were you
Go
going to
ahead.
say?
Please let us know how we can continue down the journey with you.
Yes, absolutely. Catch me on TikTok or Instagram at Encourage Over Everything. Those are my favorite places to hang out, and let's have some conversation. Oh, I think you're still on mute.
Oh, I was having a wonderful conversation with myself, y'all. Like that was if you were wondering, I was definitely talking to myself in there. It was great. Nathallie, let's come to you now. And why don't you share us about an insight you got, and then the how we can continue down with you.
Yeah, perfection. So my favorite insight from today was basically that your outlier's edge is your story. Hearing each of the panelists talk about their own life experiences and really being able to feel their energy, feel their heart, feel their soul shine through with every single answer that they gave. It's like we are all individuals, and you can tell that we are all living in our purpose in our own unique way. And I think that that's the perfect answer to that kind of initial question and intention of like, how do you set yourself apart? And it's by being your true self, by being your unique self, by honoring your story and how your life experience feeds into your purpose and your passion on earth. So I love that so much. Thank you guys for sharing your stories again. And for anybody who would like to connect deeper with me, work more with me, you can actually go to my website. It's nathhughes.com. You can go to nathhughes.com/free gift. And when you go there, you'll get access to over 12 mindset and manifestation tools. There's EFT tapping scripts and journals and my signature process for identifying any limiting belief. And long story short, what you're going to be getting is a spiritual mindset toolbox that's going to help you to just start to practice and maintain your own mental and emotional well-being, whether your goals are in romance or business or all of those things. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Sarah Nathallie. All right, let's go to Joe, and then we'll go to Gina, and we'll close for today.
One of the biggest insights, I felt like we all kind of connected, you know, but it all started from us connecting from like a trauma of something in the past. And, what's funny is that like, I know thousands of people, right? I'm sure we all do, but like everybody has a trauma of the past. But it just goes to show from today's podcast, it's just that when you're vulnerable, when you're authentic, when you're willing to just open up the skeleton closets, right? And embrace that, it's like, hey, there's some other people that also have those skeletons in the closet as well. And that's when you connect. It's just like, it's not this big old ego or this pride thing. It's that person that just waves the white flag and says, hey, man, I got some scars. I got some battle scars. It's just like, this is everything I've been through. Here's where I'm trying to progress and move, towards in my life and make it a better place because of these hardships. And I feel like this is where a lot of people also have those same insights as well. And that's where we can all connect. So that was definitely my biggest insight from today's podcast that I'm super grateful for and connecting with everybody here. If anybody wants to connect with me, outside of the podcast, you can go to heartletics.com. So HEARTLETICS.com. So heartletics.com, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I post daily workouts. So if anybody's looking to get in the best shape of their life, physically and mentally, go check it out.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah Joe. Gina, why don't you bring us all home today?
Yes, again, thank you so much for having me on the show. And thank you to this beautiful panel here. You're all incredible. And you all touch my heart, really, as well as you. Thank you again. So what I've taken away is the journey inward is more important than the journey outward. And if anything that I've learned in life, it's like my favorite hacks is compassion, forgiveness, empathy, love, and understanding. Those are my hacks of life now. And I'm just and gratitude because I am so grateful to be here. And thank you, listeners, too. If anyone wants to connect with me, they can go ahead and reach me on my website. It's www.ginakunadian.com. And I have a gift for your listeners. It's my 6 step to an alcohol-free life without AA. It's the steps that I've taken that I embraced on my journey as well as I still take them today. So thank you.
Thank you all so much. Thank you for sharing your experience. Thank you for sharing your time. Thank you for just being gracious overall. I appreciate you. And Outliers, I'm glad that we get to have this kind of people in our world. Keep shining your light. And here's the thing, be you on purpose. Journey on.